Have you ever felt like there was something inside you that could go far beyond what the world expects, but for some reason it seems dormant? As if there was a hidden code locked away in your mind, waiting for just the right combination to release a power you didn't even know you had. What if I told you that this code exists? And more than that, it was used silently by the most brilliant minds in history. Not by chance, but by structure. Not by luck, but by consciousness. We live in a society that trains us from an early age to follow a standard model of thinking, accumulating knowledge, repeating formulas, competing in speed and memorization. But true geniuses, those who transcended eras, shaped cultures, created silent revolutions, didn't follow this path. They accessed another way of seeing, thinking, and existing. They hacked their own brains. This video is a dangerous invitation. Because once you understand this brain trick, you don't just overcome mental limits, you change your identity. You stop competing with others and start operating at a frequency that few can even keep up with. This isn't cheap motivation, it's deep mental engineering. Throughout this video, we'll reveal a principle that's almost forbidden, because it threatens the system that profits from your mediocrity. We'll explore how to access hidden layers of your mind, restructure your patterns of perception, and awaken a strength that doesn't depend on external validation, but feeds on your inner clarity. If you're ready to become someone who's not just smarter, but absolutely unshakable, then keep going. The trick is just seconds away, and once you see it, your perception will be completely altered. This will be the beginning of the end of your old self. Have you ever heard of the mind's eye? It's not the one you see the world through. It's the one the world has never seen working inside you. It's the invisible lens that defines what you perceive as possible, what you consider true, and more deeply, what you believe to be. This forbidden brain trick starts right here, at the center of perception, because, contrary to what you've been taught, you don't act on reality. You act on what you believe to be real. And this is where most people lose the game before they even know it started. The brain is not a logical machine. It's a silent sculptor that shapes your identity based on invisible patterns, your memories, your repeated emotions, the stories you repeat to yourself daily. These are the tools the brain uses to sculpt your version of the world. And the trap is in comfort. You think you're being you, when in fact you're just reproducing an old, memorized automatic pattern. What geniuses do differently? They interrupt that pattern. They don't react to life, they reprogram the brain to see things differently. That's what changes everything. This trick isn't about studying more, running more, or accumulating more. It's about a single choice: getting out of automatic mode. The average brain reacts, the awakened brain observes. Now imagine that your mind is like a dark house. Every habit, every thought, every emotion is a piece of furniture that's been there since childhood. Most people keep stumbling over the same corners, bumping into the same corners, blaming the world for their pain. But the genius, he turns on the light. He stops. He looks. And when he does, something starts to change. He realizes that he can reorganize everything, that he can throw away what's no longer useful, that he can change the structure of the internal environment. And with that, the external result changes too. And do you know what's most frightening for society? It's that this power doesn't require diplomas, nor validation, nor permission. It only requires an internal act, observing without judgment, being present enough to notice where you're operating reflexively, and then pause, breathe, choose differently. This sounds simple, but it's a direct attack on the social control system that needs you to be asleep, reactive, predictable. That's why this trick is considered forbidden. Because it liberates, and someone who is free, who thinks for themselves, who doesn't react as expected, who doesn't need applause to follow, is a threat to the world that feeds on conformity. This technique won't just make you seem smarter. It will transform your mental structure, and with that, you begin to operate as someone who has transcended the old identity. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're just present, quietly dangerous, unwavering, clearly alive. Now that the first veil has been torn, let's go deeper. Because the real brain trick isn't just about watching your thoughts, it's about understanding who it is that's watching. The ego, that fragile construct you call me, is just the surface. And it is the ego that reacts, that gets offended, that needs to win useless debates, that lives in search of approval. But when you stop and witness the ego without identifying with it, something extraordinary happens. The control center changes location. This shift is the turning point between being controlled by the mind and commanding it. It is like stepping off the stage and going up to the director's booth. From up there, you see the play unfolding, but you are no longer the confused actor trying to remember his lines. You become the scriptwriter. And this is where genius begins. When you understand that you can rewrite the script, that you are not obliged to react as you always have, that you no longer need to live trapped in the emotional pattern of childhood, society, and trauma. Schopenhauer said that the greatest freedom is freedom over oneself. Jung went further. He said that until you become conscious of the unconscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it destiny. This brain trick is just that, making conscious what operates in the shadows. And to do this, you need to go where few have the courage to go. In the silence between one thought and another. This is where geniuses live. They don't talk too much. They don't need to prove anything. They listen. They observe. They capture what others don't see. Because while the world is busy looking for validation, they dive deeper and deeper into themselves. And it's from there that they get the ideas that change everything. Society doesn't fear the noisy. It fears the silent. Because it's the silent that sees, that understands, that doesn't move on impulse. And when you start operating at this level, the people around you feel it. Without knowing how to explain it, they realize that you've changed, that you're no longer playing the social game the same way, that you don't react the way you used to, that there's something about you, uncontrollable. This is the side effect of lucidity. You become unpredictable. And everything that can't be controlled reviewed cannot be controlled. Going even deeper, we reach the layer where everything begins to unravel, including you. Because the last stage of this forbidden brain trick is to understand that the mind, as powerful as it is still a tool, and that you are not the mind. You are what observes the mind. That silent awareness, that empty space between stimuli and responses, that is you. And when that recognition happens, an inner revolution begins. The world has taught you to identify with your thoughts, emotions, titles, memories. But these are just contents. And you are not the contents, you are the container. And here's the thing. The container is not affected by what passes through it. The glass does not become juice when it is filled with juice. It remains a glass, and so it is with you. Thoughts come and go, emotions waver, beliefs change. But the consciousness that witnesses all this remains. This brain trick, which so many call awakening, is not about adding something to you. It is about taking away. It is about unlearning. It's about freeing yourself from the illusion that you need to prove something to the world. It's about starting to live with clarity, no longer reacting by instinct but acting from presence. And the result of that? A strength that is as silent as it is indestructible. Not because you've become invincible, but because you've stopped being vulnerable to what doesn't matter. The geniuses, the truly free, are not those who know the most. They are the ones who are the least attached, the least dependent, the least deluded. They don't need applause because they're not on stage. They're behind the scenes of consciousness, operating with precision, creating with intention, living with totality. And the scariest thing for society is that this kind of strength can't be bought, taught, or imitated. It has to be conquered from within. And that conquest is solitary, silent, and brutally honest. That's why so few achieve it. But those who do no longer compare themselves to anyone, because they've overcome the only comparison that matters, the one with their own dormant version of themselves. Now that you understand the power of this brain trick, not as an illusory shortcut, but as a profound internal journey, It's time to make it real. It's not enough to understand it intellectually. Transformation only happens when knowledge is embodied in daily life, when it becomes practice, habit, second nature. And to do this, you need conscious discipline, firm intention, and the courage to endure the discomfort of change. The first key is observation. Every day, without exception, choose a moment. Right when you wake up, before you go to sleep, or even during a break at work, to simply observe your thoughts. Don't try to change them, don't fight them, just see. This simple practice, called by some masters naked attention, begins to weaken the hold of autopilot. Because when you observe, you don't get confused with the content. You remember that you are separate from it, and in that space of remembrance, power is born. The second practice is strategic silence. Create moments of absolute silence throughout the day, even if it's just 2 minutes. Turn everything off. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply and listen to what's inside. It will be uncomfortable at first. Your mind will scream for stimulation, for distraction. This is a sign that the trick is working. Silence is where false selves dissolve. And when this happens, your energy is focused, strengthened, refined. Third technique, eliminate the excess. Be radical with everything that doesn't feed your clarity. Useless information, empty conversations, automatic tasks that only dull you. Every time you say yes to what weakens you, you are saying no to the most powerful version of you. Start practicing no as a form of self-respect. This is not arrogance, it is inner sovereignty. Fourth, write. Get a notebook and every night write down the reactions you had throughout the day. Which ones came from impulse? Which ones were conscious? Where did you lose energy? Where did you stay whole? This writing is not to judge but to illuminate, because everything that is seen clearly begins to transform on its own. And finally, breathe with intention. Breathing is the direct access code to the nervous system. Whenever you feel anxious, reactive, or overwhelmed, stop. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Repeat. In a few minutes, your brain will shift out of survival mode and back to center. These practices done every day are not magic, but they become magical over time. Because little by little, they kill the weak, scattered, unstable version of you and reveal what was always there: a calm strength, an absolute focus, an inviolable awareness. You have come this far, and that alone shows that something in you refuses to live as before. Most people recoil when faced with the inner work, with the idea that the mind is a battlefield where you win in silence. But you stayed. And now, perhaps for the first time, you are ready to do something few dare: transform yourself from the inside out, without having to prove anything to anyone. What has been said here is not an empty promise, nor a miracle trick. It is a call for you to take control of your own mind, for you to recognize that your strength has never been in appearing intelligent, in accumulating titles, in winning debates, but in silencing the inner chaos and walking with clarity, even when the whole world is screaming. This forbidden brain trick we speak of is none other than the mastery of attention, the ability to not react like a conditioned animal, but to choose your response like an awakened being. When you begin to operate from this place, others notice. The energy changes. Your presence carries more weight. Your words cut deeper. And most impressively, you begin to attract less noise and more truth, less distraction and more purpose. Because the universe responds not to what you say you want, but to what you hold in silence. And it is this silence, this inner space that you conquer, that makes you greater than the geniuses you have known. Because while they rely on intellect, you operate with clarity. While they get lost in ideas, you act with precision. While they seek validation, you live from the source. So now, before you leave this video, make a commitment to yourself, not to perfection, but to practice. Because true genius is not what shines once, it is what is refined every day. If this message touched you, share it with someone who is also ready to break out of the old mind. And in the comments, write, "I choose consciousness." Because this is not just a sentence, it is the beginning of a new story.